Well, hi everyone. This is Kimberly again with the North Glen Youth Theater and North Glen Youth Theater Academy. And we have another installment in our series called Not Just Acting, Other Jobs in the Theater. And today I'm so thrilled to be joined by Tessa Nelson, who has a job with a crazy name, but it is one of the most interesting jobs, I think, that you can find in the theater world. She is dramaturge, and she'll be able to tell you a lot more about what the heck does that mean and kind of her journey to get there. And hopefully you'll pull a lot of information from today's interview. So without further ado, I'm just gonna throw it over to Tessa, and you can tell us a bit about you and your journey.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks, Kim. Yeah, like Kim said, I'm a dramaturg, but I didn't start out that way. I started out as an actor, like I think a lot of you are, and I did a lot of plays with North Glen Youth Theater, as well as all over town. I started acting when I was like 6 or 7, and I was a munchkin in the Lullaby League, and it was great. And then I went to DSA and as an acting major, and I was all about acting. I was like, this is the most important thing in the entire world, and that's what I'm going to do with my entire life, and this is me, it's my soul. So when I was looking at colleges, I was looking at a conservatory program or nothing. I was like, I'm going to go to Juilliard, or I'm going to go live on the streets of New York and just make it. But I was lucky enough to get a pamphlet from this really weird liberal arts school called St. John's College, which is all about reading and the great books. And I loved to read forever. And I went for a shadow day, and they kind of pulled me in. So instead of going to a conservatory and studying acting, I went to this bizarro tiny college with 400 people where I read, it was insane. It was like 150 books a semester. And we read them in French and ancient Greek. And what it really convinced me of is that an education in everything, a liberal education, is a great kind of education because it gives you a starting place that you can grow from. So kind of armed with that philosophy, I kind of reevaluated my role in the theater because I loved acting, but I knew that acting was kind of hopping from job to job, and some projects would be amazing and incredibly fulfilling, and then others might not be quite as epic. So I started to wonder how I could educate myself liberally in the theater, which is what led me to this field called dramaturgy. And dramaturgy is essentially a theater everyman. It's somebody who knows a whole lot about theater history and a whole lot about current events and a whole lot about what playwrights are working currently right now and some hot button issues, and they work to try to mush those things all together. So they might work with a playwright on a brand new play about how within this theatrical tradition, within theater history, they can make something that feels super current and feels like it matters to the people who would be seeing it today. So starting out as an actor, I kind of moved through this liberal education and then thought about how I could educate myself in the theater. And that's proven good because in addition to dramaturgy, I'm still an actor. I keep telling people that I'm the only person in the world who kind of has acting as a fallback plan because I find that those are the jobs that I can get sometimes. I'm acting at the museum, and I acted with Kaiser Permanente. And I'm a director and I'm a writer, but this education in dramaturgy helps me with all of those things.
That's so awesome. I think it's fun how a journey takes one and then does this, broadens and sees everything. So now you studied and then you got your master's, is that right? Where did you went Harvard?
I was at Harvard, yeah, Harvard University. And they have this cool partnership with the Moscow Art Theater. So a third of our time was actually in Russia. And we studied Russian theater and stuff like that with Harvard.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, you say you often work with directors. How do you, do they come find you? Do you find them? Like, how does that work?
It really depends. The role of dramaturg is incredibly variable. So I've been approached by directors in the past who know that I'm a dramaturg to work on specific projects around subjects that they know that I'm pretty well versed in. So I specialize in Shakespeare. So I've had some Shakespeare directors come ask me, and I'm also pretty good at science. So I've had some vaguely scientific plays come approach me. But like a lot of jobs, it's often about applying and really understanding what theater companies are in your area, and then reaching out to them and getting known somehow. I think a lot of theater is getting your foot in the door. So working for theaters in whatever capacity they need you to, and starting to network and get to know those people so that they know all that you can do.
Cool. So now I am guessing there are tons of like tools that you use, not necessarily a wrench or a measuring tape, but like what are some of the things that you utilize all the time or very regularly as a dramaturg?
So as a dramaturg, you're spending a lot of time researching. So you need a whole lot of research tools, and some of them are kind of sneaky. You have to find ways to get the research that you need, because one important role of the dramaturg is to do all of the research so that you're making sure that a play, if it's set in a time period, is accurate to that time period, or if it's set in the future, that world of the future makes sense. So there's a lot of awesome websites and books that you can use for research. And then I think that you're also using a lot of like playwriting techniques and background knowledge about. I think the dramaturg's main tool is a whole lot of books. Not the libraries.
Yeah. And are you on I'm assuming you're on the internet a lot too, and just grabbing tidbits here and there and stuff.
People are usually the most valuable. Like one piece of advice that I learned in grad school is before, because dramaturgs often give pretty tough notes. When a dramaturg works with a director, their role is to see a play from the audience's perspective before it's open. So sometimes they have to be the one to tell the director, like, the tone of this play doesn't really work with what's happening on stage, which is tough for people to hear. Really tough. So you have to say the right thing at the right time to someone who will listen. And cultivating that relationship to have a director be someone who will listen to you is really tough. So this grad school advice that I got is, before you do any real dramaturgical work or anything, have dinner with a person, preferably at their house. And don't talk about research or the play at all. Just kind of get to know each other and understand how to talk to one another. Because if you're not able to speak honestly, you'll never get anywhere as a dramaturg.
Sure. So you have to build some it sounds like it's a lot of relationship building, not just when you're working together, but even just interacting on a basic level, getting your name out there, but then also connecting in a positive way with other groups and spaces and stuff around town. So again, and this is a theme that keeps coming up, a lot of theater is about networking, interacting, just connecting the dots between people and saying, oh, you worked on this show. Well, I worked with this person also at that space, or, just kind of making those connections and building a rapport. That sounds fantastic.
And what I love specifically about dramaturgy with that regard is that sometimes theater can start to feel really insular and like everybody knows everybody and we're this tight little network, but it's the dramaturg's job not only to network within that theatrical community, but also to be a real member of the world. Because if you're doing for example, I consulted on Finding Neverland. And what was kind of wonderful about that is that when we were developing Finding Neverland, we worked with a group that did programs for kids who had lost their parents. And then we were able to bring those kids in as advisors and then also give them access to the show. So as a dramaturg, being a part of all of those communities is just as important as being a part of the theatrical community.
Oh yeah, that sounds fantastic. It feels like it's like anything and everything, really, like you're constantly absorbing and absorbing bits and pieces and knowledge. Do you go and like see a lot of shows?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's probably part of the toolkit too, is seeing a lot of shows. When we were in Russia, we saw a show every night at least, often more. And that's the kind of life that I would love to live. So in Denver, I try to see every single show that every theater company is producing. Not only the ones that I'm working for or the ones that I admire, but also the ones that are up and coming and brand new, just so that you can know what people are doing around town and you can know what people are saying about it. It's essential.
That's awesome. Have you, it sounds like you're part of the process then of like when you think of a production as a whole piece, like you're in on it from basically the get-go all the way through to opening beyond, like, yeah, how does that go?
Absolutely. It depends on the kind of dramaturgy that you're doing, but and it's always funny. People are like, what's a dramaturg? And I'm like, I don't know, because it can be a whole lot of things. But if you're a new play dramaturg, you really are in from the ground up. You're in the room with the writer before the play is written, talking about ideas and helping to shape the narrative and understand characters. Then if you're in the rehearsal as a dramaturg, you're working as a liaison between the writer and the director. And you're also trying to play that audience role, and you're really talking to the director about shaping that narrative. And then after opening, oftentimes dramaturgs have a whole lot of the brunt of lobby displays and education. So you're really working to, as something I care about as a dramaturg, is having the lobby be part of the world of the play. Like I worked on the show called Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. And in that, the lobby was this like affluent, someone said it was like the inside of a Fabergé egg. And it was all velvet curtains. So then when you got in, it felt like it was a continuous thing. And that was something that I had a role in designing as a dramaturg. And then also the education aspect, you're really trying to reach out to those communities that it matters to most and getting their butts in the seats, as well as developing curriculum, and talkbacks are a big thing, and all of these resources so that people can come to the play in as many ways as they want to.
That's awesome. It just, to me, it feels like you've got your hands in all of the great stuff that happens in a show, making it go. You know, you're finding out and digging into the whole world of the show. You're working with all of the designers and the director, and then also watching what the actors are doing and giving feedback there, but then also working with the administration people, you know, just like you were saying in the lobby. Boy, you've got to be talking with the people that own and operate the venue. You know, how can we make this happen? How can we bring success together? It just sounds like it's something for somebody who really enjoys being in the thick of it.
Absolutely. And another thing that I love a lot about dramaturgy, I guess, but another thing that I love is that you're always on the side of the play. So like, no matter what's happening, you know, if people are often coming from a whole lot of different angles, and you don't have to care about any politicking or any big egos. What you have to care about is the play and the story. And you really have to be the advocate for that, which makes my heart happy.
Well, yeah, because I think sometimes the author, the playwright's voice gets lost once it's been, you know, bound, printed, and gone. And I think that's a really great value to bring, to continue like the authenticity and the truth of what a playwright might be working for and toward in their piece, so that they still are honored, you know. And I think that's an interesting voice that you can bring too, especially if if you're doing a play from an author that has had tons and tons of plays, you can say, well, consistently, this is what they do, or you can make comparisons and bring those things up, because honestly, you know, your production team may not have read all of the plays by, you know, by Arthur Miller or whomever, you know, right? So it becomes a wealth of knowledge that you can bring, and you become such a helper, such a I don't know, contributor on a big level. I think that's, I think for a lot of people, that's very appealing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's a lot to be said about dramaturgy, because, you know, you get to have that wide focus. You get to see, like you were saying, a play from start to finish. And you also get to see how the play exists in the world today, which if you're directing, you can't pay attention to that all the time. You have to get done what needs to get done. And you're not allowed to think about things on kind of this macroscopic level. So I think big thinkers and dramaturgy go hand in hand.
Yeah. I think also I always compare it to like somebody who's like a super sleuth, right? With their magnifying glass. They're going deeper and they're searching for and trying to find all the tidbits and, you know, the hidden meaning or the clues or something. I think it's just super, I would think, appealing to somebody who likes a scavenger hunt or likes a good mystery. So if somebody is like, if there's an NYC kid or any kid who's a theater buff out there who is kind of contemplating their future, what are some things, and they're listening to you and they're thinking, yeah, that talks to me, that speaks to me. What kind of things, or where would you point them? Like say, oh, you need to look at this kind of schooling or this kind of class, or what would be your guidance there?
I would try to get an internship somewhere. There are a lot of amazing dramaturgy or literary management internships available. I know the Goodwin Theater has an amazing one. The Denver Center, if it ever comes back, is where I did my first literary management internship, and it was really, really, really valuable. So I would find, what I would do first is I would start to think about what theaters you admire. And I would really look, I think when I was in high school, I didn't understand that like these big theaters, their work reflects their values and who they think of themselves as a theater. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that I would do is I would look at all of the theaters across the country. There's a website, the LORT website, L-O-R-T website, is a great way to find that kind of theater. And I would start looking into the kind of work that they do. And I would start thinking about the kind of work that you want to make. And then I would reach out to that theater and see if they have any literary management internships. And I would make sure that you get paid if you can. And I would kind of go from there. There are some I wouldn't recommend dramaturgy for undergrad because it's such a broad topic. You can study, what you should study is math and science and philosophy and all of those things in addition to theater, and that'll set you up in a great way for dramaturgy. But there are a couple of MFA programs at Yale or Columbia if they're interested in pursuing that further. And then those are really great for getting contacts to go into the real world and continue being a dramaturg out there. So it's always a circuitous path in the theater, and especially in this field, but that might be a way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think immersing yourself is so key. Even in stuff that sometimes I say, you know what, go see stuff you don't like too, because it really helps you understand. Just even, you know, I saw this play and I hated how they do it. But that taught me a whole lot about, well, here's another way people do theater, A, but B, this is something I don't want my audience to come away feeling. So, you know, and you learn a whole bunch. This year, I actually went and saw a show that was a very immersive experience. And I hadn't seen an immersive show since I was in college a million years ago. But I had forgotten how that had felt. And I came away from that thinking, I'm going to do that in every show from now on. I'm always going to do this. And I thought, being really immersed and tied into the community and in theater is exactly what makes you good at just theater in general. But for a dramaturg, I think it's like essential so that you are able to provide those tidbits of wisdom or knowledge or feedback or guidance. I think you're almost like a sage in the world of theater.
Another thing that that I was taught in grad school that I'm not always good about doing, but is to never leave a play saying, oh, I liked that, or oh, I didn't like that, because those aren't interesting questions, right? You can leave a play, and regardless of your feelings, you can be asking what was impactful, or what ideas came across most strongly, or how did they make use of all of these various items. And then, it doesn't matter if you liked it or you didn't like it. You definitely get something out of every play because you start to ask yourself those critical questions. And that informs who you are as an artist.
Yeah.
Definitely. I also had this weird thought. I remembered when I was in high school, I was lucky and privileged enough to go on a trip to New York. And my parents were like, let's see some off-Broadway stuff too. And I was like, no, if it's off-Broadway, it means it's not good enough for Broadway, which is like the most embarrassing thing I've ever done in my life, maybe. But when you're seeing plays, especially if you're seeing smaller theaters or kind of undeveloped work, sometimes you're lucky. And I think it's every dramaturg's dream to find something new. Maybe you'll find something that you've never seen before that has a kernel of the most exciting idea you've ever found in it. So there's always that too.
Yeah, again, it's that mystery and seeking and finding and the Where's Waldo of the of theaterdom, right? I think that's so fun. Now, I know you also talked about that you work at the Museum of Nature and Science, because that to me, it seems like it goes hand in hand. Can you talk a little bit about how your background in the arts has now helped you in the world of nature and science?
Absolutely. It's amazing. So first, at the museum, I am an actor and an educator. So that background helped me a lot. But having this background in dramaturgy helps you see how to switch things. I'll say too, in this time of COVID, this isn't the first time I've seen digital theater because I immersed myself. And so I have a leg up in figuring out how to turn all of the museum's programs into digital programs. So my voice all of a sudden became an important one in the room, something to listen to. And that'll get you far. So I think that, having all of this exposure to all of this theater and also thinking critically about scientific topics and things outside the realm of theater have just made it so I feel like I could get pretty much any job, it's fine. Whatever, don't even worry about it.
Do it all, woo! That's fantastic. Now, I do know that you also have dabbled in creating your own theater company, your own group. Tell me kind of about management in a way and development. What's that look like?
Yeah, it's a lot of the same skills. So those relationship building skills are essential when it comes to management. Management, I think a lot of people think of theater management as this kind of delightful thing, when a lot of theater management is filling out paperwork and doing legal stuff and difficult taxes, which are not my favorite parts of theater management, but are really, really, really important. And then the rest of it is building a community, because if you're starting something brand new, people don't know why they should trust you. People don't know why they should come and audition for you or why they should work for you. And so you have to be able to prove your worth and also communicate your worth to these people who may have never, ever, ever seen you before. So those are really important. And then also just like having good ideas is also important, and having faith that those ideas are good and the follow through to make them happen.
Yes. There is a lot of just digging deep in all of this. Just being in theater in general requires you to dig deep and take risks and just put yourself out there in a lot of different ways. It sounds like in your fields, all of the fields, but particularly, we're talking predominantly about your dramaturgy work, you have to be open and ready to put yourself out there, to say, hey, what I've got is a whole lot of wealth of information, knowledge. I want to contribute. I want to help you succeed. Let me help you. Let me partner with you and be part of that. Talk about what, I don't think it's something where people say, oh, you're going to make a ton of money in this particular field. How do you tell people, approach people, all of that about why your skills and what you contribute, how that's tied to a monetary value? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've fallen into that trap before too. I've found myself, just because I'm an eager, open person, I've found myself doing dramaturgy and not realizing that I need to be compensated for it. But then just having those honest moments where, like, if you're the only one who's able to speak on a subject in a room, then you are valuable to that room. Mm-hmm. So if you find yourself, like I've done, speaking a lot of value into a room, catch yourself and then approach the people who have the money and say, hey, it seems like you might need a dramaturg. Here's what it is. Here's how I can do it or have been doing it. And here's how much it's worth. And you can take it or leave it. So really, and I think that a lot of that comes also from speaking honestly with people in the field. You have to find out how much people in your community are getting paid. And then you have to ask for equivalent rates, which is a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
But you have to find your peers and ask.
Yeah. Well, and that's, do you find that you kind of have like a, I don't know, not like a club, but there's a collective, yeah, of people who do what you do, or have similar paths and connections where you talk together and maybe throw problems, ideas with each other? Is there a network just of dramaturgs?
There is. It's called LMDA, or the Literary Managers and Dramaturgs Association, which also, for any budding dramaturgs out there, you should just join it. There's a Facebook group and a lot of other things. And we have regular meetups, and you're able to ask questions to the group and kind of field conversations, which is a wonderful resource.
Yeah, I would suspect, even though you know a lot of stuff, I'm sure there are things where you're like, I got nothing. You have to go in and find out, hey, does anybody know anything about this obscure thing? Or, yeah, I think that's a good resource.
Another thing you have to do in terms of like making money in the business is you have to chase connections. So like I was lucky enough to get some of my first gigs through school, and then continuing your relationships with those people. So being like, oh, hey, we worked on this project together. I see that you're working on this. I know a lot about Moby Dick. How about we work together? That's a really great way to continue working in the field and also kind of continuing to get paid in the field.
Nice. Yeah. And if any of the kids have been following this whole series consistently throughout all the jobs in the theater world, it is really about a hustle in many ways. You have got to seek opportunity and pursue it, and not just expect that it's going to fall in your lap, or you're going to look in, on a listing somewhere and it's just going to pop up like that. It very much is you have to be aware of what it is you want to do, where you want to go, what you seek out, and then you aggressively just hunt it, if you will, to get it. And then that will open doors. Just like you were saying, you started doing an internship at the Denver Center, and then that led to connecting here and connecting there, and it all kind of, it feeds on one another, but you have to keep at it, right?
And I will say too, like, one of the reasons that I went into dramaturgy is because I couldn't imagine that hustle as my entire life. Mm-hmm. Because I think at least when I was 17 or 18, I thought, because I was acting all the time, right? I was stacking gigs. I was doing 3 shows and then booking my next 3 and going through life like that. And I was like, this is great. I could do this forever. And then,
right.
I became older and I was like, whoo, all right, cool. When your entire livelihood, when your ability to make rent and live a life depends on whether or not somebody in a casting room likes you, that becomes terrifying and completely exhausting. And it's something that for me, I couldn't imagine for forever. So I went into dramaturgy because there are careers in dramaturgy, like literary management or education director or these theater managers that come from dramaturgy that provides stability. So you're able to work in the theater in a stable way, which is kind of end goal.
Right. Exactly. Definitely. And it does also, you're still able to keep, one eye over here, because I think in your heart you still have that drive for acting. It doesn't just necessarily and you're done. You have that eye to be able to say, oh, now that's something that, a role that comes up that maybe you want to try for or something. So it isn't like, I keep telling everybody, it's not like you necessarily have to abandon your acting bug either. They kind of build on each other and go hand in hand.
It started to work out a lot better because like I said earlier, when I was doing exclusively acting, I would take roles I wanted and roles that I didn't really care that much about. Whereas now that I found myself in a career that lends itself to, freedom of time and freedom of place, I can take exclusively passion projects, which is so much better. Because I found myself when I was like 20 or so, after really rolling through all this acting stuff, I started to get burned out and I started to not like it because I was taking so many roles that I didn't care about and plays that I didn't care about. So being able to only take the ones that brings me joy makes me love theater and acting all that much more.
Yeah. Awesome. That's so awesome. Great stuff, Tessa. Tell me a little bit more where you see the future of this particular job. Do you see avenues that are opening up or different ways that it's becoming more, just morphing and changing? What do you see?
There's a lot. It's kind of crazy right now. Because you mean in terms of the field or in terms of my life? Or
honestly, the field. Yeah. But expand on your life too if you want. But
so the field is interesting because dramaturgs are often the shapers. And look, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so you can't go to plays anymore, and you might not be able to for a little while. And the people that folks in the theater are looking to are dramaturgs to figure out what theater looks like now. Because dramaturgs were the main voice. You were speaking about immersive theater earlier. It was dramaturgs who kind of championed and helmed this immersive theater world. Dramaturgs are a lot of the people behind dance theater. So dramaturgs are the ones who mess with form and play with it. So now that we have to be socially distanced, I think that dramaturgs are trying to think critically about how to do that and also achieve catharsis or those feelings that are really important in theater. And some think that it's not worth it. Some think that theater is about community and coming together. And that if we're not able to do that, then the theater is dead. Whereas other people are trying to find ways to create that connectedness in a new digital world that we're living in. So I think like we are at an explosion point in the dramaturgical field because we have a problem and dramaturgs are the ones who solve problems when they crop up.
Yeah. And also I was thinking, you know, right now with the climate and so much surrounding social change, the discussions of Black Lives Matter and so many other things that are coming at the theater is a voice. It is a place where all of those things get processed out loud and visually through story, through all those things. And I think dramaturge like is right there too, right? And can help with, well, here's some historical stuff, here's some whatever, and helping mold there as well.
100%. I like dramaturgs across the country are listening to the Black Lives Matter movement now and in the context of history and thinking about the future. And hopefully we'll be able to go into the theater and find the people who need to speak and tell their stories, and hopefully make, help forge these connections so that the people who have voices in this situation are able to speak their truths. That's a big dramaturgical job, is making those connections. And then you said the current climate, but if we think about climate of the planet, dramaturgs should be watching that too and finding the people that matter and helping the world understand all of these crises and how we need to act.
Right. Yeah. So if I'm thinking if there are kids out there that are like, everything is interesting, all of this, the historical part, the current stuff, all of it, that this is like people who figure themselves to be sponges. This is for you, just take it in, take it in, take it in. And then also being able to say when somebody is like, oh, I wonder if there's a show that deals with X topic, you're like, oh, yes, here's what happened. And you're able to guide and move to. I think it's a fantastic catch-all, if you will, for somebody who really enjoys almost everything.
Absolutely. And for people who have strong morals and care about social justice, it's a really great role to play. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, gosh, Tessa, you've given us so much today. And I hope now that anybody that is watching this and stuff can kind of say, oh, I kind of get now what that is, that word that sounds like weird music or something, but indeed it is, pardon me, it's something that is like the glue, like the I don't know, not boundaries, but it, kind of guides, I think, do
the
that.
Banks of a river.
Yeah, very good. For this world that we call theater, this very special place. Is there anything else that you want to add? Anything that you want kids to know?
If anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm absolutely open to that. We're a tiny little community as dramaturgs. So if you want to be part of it, send me an email and we'll talk.
Sounds good. Oh, that's so cool. Thank you so much, Tessa, for taking time out of your schedule and your day just to share a little bit about this and hopefully inspire somebody to pursue this area of theater and this way of being immersed in the arts. So again, we appreciate you so very much. And to everyone else, thanks for tuning in. I hope it was a great eye-opener for you and that you can say, I learned something today. So anyway, take care. Until next time. Bye, everybody.